What's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a review for Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse, and I don't know if you can tell, but I actually kind of have my Miles Morales colors on. I didn't do that on purpose. I swear I didn't. I got on my red shirt and my black jacket to kind of match his costume. But anyway, this was a movie that I was actually very anticipated for when they first announced it. I believe it was maybe about a little over a year ago when I found out that they were coming out with a movie, because I am a fan of the Miles Morales character. A lot of people weren't really feeling his character because it's like they felt Miles Morales was really copying off of the Peter Parker thing, and they was like, why do they need a black Spider-Man and all this, that, and the third. You know, the whole politics of it all, needing a black character that is being pushed into a character that has already been made. But to be honest, after seeing this movie, I could see them probably making some more movies with his character in it. But before I really go into what I really liked about the film, let me just give you a synopsis. Basically, this movie was about, of course, the Miles Morales character. He's a afro-latino, has a I'm not sure exactly what the nationality his mother is, but let's just say she's quote-unquote Hispanic, Latino. I'm not sure if she's Puerto Rican or Dominican. I want to say she's Dominican. I'm not entirely sure. And his dad is black. What I did like about them is they actually kept that in there, because that actually stayed true to his character. They even had him speaking Spanish a little bit in the film, like in the beginning when his mother was communicating with him. Not to say that she couldn't speak English, but in times when she was speaking Spanish, he was actually speaking Spanish right back to her. So I like that they kept the actual aspect of his entire heritage there. I like the music. The music that they played in the movie was very representative of the Brooklyn lifestyle. They even played Biggie in there, which was very, very true to the New York scene. The culture setting was just very, very, very good. I like how they did all of that. Basically, he is this kid. He's in Brooklyn, teenager. He goes to this very, I guess you could say, upscale prep school, because he's very intelligent. He's very smart, but he's very artistic. He really wants to express himself, but he feels like he can't really fit in at this school that he's going to. He would rather be at the school that's in his neighborhood, because that's where he's more known at. He's more popular. When he goes to this other school, he's not really known. He's kind of like the outsider. He doesn't really have that many friends and everything of that nature. Then one day he hooks up with his uncle, who his father really doesn't approve of any of that sort. And I believe his uncle was probably his dad's brother, because of how they were similarly look, you know, how they look like each other. Took him down, you know, did some graffiti work on the underground training. That's when he comes in contact with that spider, and you pretty much know what happens from there. Gets bit. Then he starts to feel like, you know, he gets these abilities. And what's very interesting is that every spider person, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit, has their own little special, unique, you know, kind of ability. Now, the way that all the other spider people come in, and the thing is how all of that happens, is because we already know about Peter Parker. We think that Peter Parker is the only Spider-Man that is out there. But this movie shows that there are more of them, and they're in another dimension. Like, they all come from various alternate universes. That's why they call it the Spiderverse, because over the years, they created various Spider-Men or Spider people or Spider beings over the years through these comics, and they explore them in this film. Like, you had the Spider Pig, then you had this little girl who created her own like robot that had Spider-Man like capabilities. Then you had another guy. He kind of reminded me of the Rorschach character off of Watchmen, if you ever seen that movie before. Then you had Peter Parker and Spider-Gwen, or what she calls herself Spider-Woman, but some people call her Spider-Gwen or Gwen Stacy. That's another character that people are really familiar with as well. And they all pretty much come into the fold when the main antagonist, who is Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, messes up this thing called the Collider, and they all come out of their dimensions. And basically the goal is they need to find a way to get back to their dimensions, or else they're going to disintegrate. Sort of like how Thanos did when he snapped his fingers and all the people just turned into dust. That's what will end up happening to them. So they have to work together in order to get themselves back into their alternate universes before that eventually happens. Now, the best part about this movie was definitely the animation. I can honestly say I can see why this movie got nominated for a Best Animated Movie for a Golden Globe. The animation in this film was very well done. I have not seen anything quite like that in quite some time. And I like what they did is they made it almost like comic book style. Like you'll see parts where you'll see the captions pop up on the side of the screen where, you know, if you read a comic book and you see like a caption in a square, it's basically showing, it's like almost like a narration of what's happening in the scene without someone actually saying it. It's like a thought. So whenever Miles was thinking of something, it would pop up in a caption, or if he would say certain things, you'll see it on the side in a very exciting sort of way. Or if there was an explosion, it would do like how the explosion would be if it actually sounded the way an explosion would sound. So it was almost like a comic, like it was almost like looking at a comic book, or if you were playing one of those virtual reality style games. That's another way I could explain how it looked. But I really liked how the animation looked. I'll say the last 30 minutes of this film was probably the best part of the film. That's where a lot of the action took place. Not saying that action didn't happen anywhere else, but in that last 30 minutes right there was very good. Now, we all know that Miles Morales was the main character. He was the main protagonist in the movie, even though he had other characters there helping him. But what I like what they did with this movie was when, and this is going to be a little minor spoiler, hopefully it doesn't spoil too much, was at the very end of the movie, in those last few scenes, they allowed his character to go one-on-one with the main villain of the movie. They didn't have it where he was going against the villain and he had help. I like that they did this because it allowed Miles Morales to really shine, have his spotlight right then and there. And I think they did that on purpose in order to show that, you know, as this Spider-Man, he was just as effective or just as powerful as Peter Parker could have been going against the main person. And he had to do that because, like I said, Peter Parker was coming out of another dimension. Peter Parker probably would have lost that fight because he would have been too busy glitching, you know, decimating while trying to fight the main villain. Miles Morales was fighting the main villain in his own universe, which was Kingpin. So that whole fight sequence right there, I really liked how they kept it where Miles versus Kingpin just going against each other one-on-one in that entire sequence. I really did appreciate them for doing that. They didn't Blade Trinity him, which means that they didn't turn him into a side character in his own film. But if I had to give Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a rating, I would definitely give it an 8.5 out of 10. I can't give it like a perfect rating. It was some slow moments in there that they could have filled some other things in there as well, but I understand that, you know, it's like his first film. Hopefully many more to come. A lot of people were worried or saying like, oh, well, how come the movie with Miles Morales in his first movie, how come they made it animated? Why couldn't they have made it with a real person? To be honest, I was actually one of those people that asked that same question when they first announced it. Why couldn't he be a real life person? I mean, if they gave the original Spider-Man Peter Parker his own real movie, why did they have to do it with Miles Morales? To be honest, now that after seeing this movie, with all the stuff that they did in there, could you imagine what that budget would have looked like if they had to do it with a real person? It would have been probably 5 times, maybe 10 times more for doing that. But it's something to look at into the future. And even if they introduce the Miles Morales character, they can do it in one of the Spider-Man films that's coming up. Who knows? It was always speculation, was Miles Morales going to come up in the Spider-Man MCU version? Because if you remember Spider-Man Homecoming that came out last year, they kind of teased him without mentioning him, because Donald Glover was in that movie and he said that Miles Morales was his nephew and he was his uncle, but we didn't see Miles Morales. His name was mentioned, but we never saw him. So the fact that they're mentioning him means that it's a possibility that in the future he might actually come up in one of these Spider-Man films, which I think will excite a lot of people. And another thing that I like about this is that now it exposes people to a new character that's been around for a while that may be new to them, and, you know, give them a new aspect, and now more people can appreciate the Miles Morales character, especially young black boys, because, you know, there's not a lot of black superheroes out there. I mean, there are, but they don't have enough exposure. And I think with movies like Blade and, of course, Black Panther being so successful, they can now push more of them out there. And I think with this movie, it can help as well. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Are you going to see the film? And if you are, let me know what you thought of it. I hope that if you do take your kids, especially if you have young sons who don't know about the character, to go and take them to see it as well, so they can be exposed to a new character that they probably never heard of before. With that being said, I will talk to you in the next one.